consumers say they want grass-fed beef. People say they want to know where their food comes from. But every day they vote with their dollars. And what their dollars say is that they don't want small independent ranches. They want factory farms and cheap imported beef. The truth is that raising cattle is not only difficult, it's damn near impossible unless you're willing to fight for it. And today I'm going to show you why. Last night we got about 6 more inches of snow, literally, on top of what we already have. You can now see how deep that is. I don't know if you can tell that from this camera. It's about 1 foot deep, way more than we usually have down here in this valley. You can see the pickup. And you can see the deer have been right on the deck. So there's the deck. They've been right there. They're trying to get these trees, but so far they haven't been brave enough to go. I think this is pretty smooth concrete, and it's too slick for them. I think that's why they haven't gone over there. I kind of feel for the deer and elk. Right now, there's a lot of ranchers who are feeding the deer and elk. You see this? See the deer tracks right here? They go right over to the wall there. They're probably chewing on that wood right next to Heston's head. And they've gone over here looking for food. They're looking for anything they can eat, because it's really hard to paw through this much snow to get down to something you can eat. See, the only thing sticking up is some sagebrush and juniper trees. Just don't have a lot of food value. Well, here we go. Oh, hey, at least it's 2 degrees outside. It's above 0. Which is a lot warmer than below 0. Yeah, well, if you don't laugh, at least I laugh at myself, right? This will slide down on the windshield if I don't get it off. There we go. I don't think I've actually seen this much snow here. I've lived in this particular area since I was 15, which is a long time ago.
Be on you?
Yeah. So diesel fuel, when it gets cold like this, can gel up, which is not really gelling. I was talking to my brother-in-law, and he was saying gelling just means that the water in the fuel starts to get a little bit slushy, and then it doesn't go through your fuel filter and ends up plugging up your fuel line. So you can usually still run your vehicle if it's gelled up. I mean, if it gets so cold that the weather causes your diesel fuel to slush up, but you can't go very fast. It will limit your power because it limits the amount of fuel that goes through it. It kind of pinches it off. So up in the north, typically you don't have to worry about this until you get down below 0 quite a ways, especially with these newer vehicles. Like this one's not new, but it's 2010, and because of the system that it runs, it doesn't gel up very fast. It's got a little heater on it where it heats the actual fuel up, and the other day it was actually 28 below and this didn't gel up. And so I'm going to put in about half of this. This is a diesel treat, and this treats your diesel fuel so that it doesn't gel up for sure. Put the rest of that back there in the snowdrift. It's supposed to get really cold tonight, so I'm going to fill it up with some diesel treat and it should be fine. Now up in the north here, the number 2 diesel used to be we had to have all number 1 diesel. Number 1 diesel means that it has treat in it already. Number 2 diesel, number 2 highway diesel right there. So you got 70-30 blend, 50-50 blend, number 1. Those are all blends of diesel that actually keep it from gelling. But if you run number 2, up here in the north now, they actually blended anyway. So the number 2 actually has some ability to not gel. It just depends on how much risk you want to take. I always use number 2, it's quite a bit cheaper. And then just put in a little bit of diesel treat in your tank. To be safe, just add a little bit of treat in there. When you're driving in this kind of snow, it's easy to get stuck. This is a ground blizzard, so it's snowing a little bit, but mainly what it's doing is the wind is blowing and blowing the snow along the ground up to above your head, so you can't see anything that's going on the ground. So what you see is this solid sheet of white, just like that. But over there is a big drift. So if you don't see it, even with sunglasses on, I cannot tell where the tracks are. I'm just going down kind of where I think somebody has driven. So it's very easy to get off into a drift and get stuck with these conditions right here. Now I'm gonna go into my dad's place here. So you can see Dad and I's different opinion of clothing.
Yeah.
So I absolutely, I hate those wearing coveralls, so I only put them on when I absolutely have to. But wearing this hat is okay usually, but when the wind's blowing like this, it can get bad. And then when you put sunglasses on, which you about have to have because the snow is just blinding you,
Yeah.
then it freezes your ears off because it separates separates your ear from your head.
Yeah. That's why I got me a Russian hat.
Speaking of tough, he's probably tougher than I am. Back when you were a teenager, there's a video of him with a snowmobile and a car hood.
The car hood feeding hay, because that's the only thing we could get around with.
So
There
much
was no
snow.
getting around with any vehicle other than that.
So they would load hay on the car hood and then drag it along like a sled behind the snowmobile. And so that was how many years ago, Dad? 60.
I can't count that far.
Probably 60 years ago. Well, 55 years ago. So he's been feeding hay for 55 years, right, Dad?
Yep.
Yep. In blizzards and snow and everything else.
As fast as the wind kind of comes.
We'll see if we can get this plow down a touch. So this is, having a tractor is so important. The four-wheel drive tractor. Back in the old days, most of the tractors that they had were not four-wheel drive. We're trying to find the road. Oh, Dad just fell. Luckily, he has more clothes on than me. I may actually have to get my coveralls on for this because the wind's blowing and it cuts through everything. He's getting up. It must be solid ice right there, I'll bet. I better go help him. What'd you do? Find some ice? Did you find some ice or what?
No, just a big drift right there.
Oh.
And it hooked my toe.
So, is that where the road is?
No, this was the road.
No, I think you're right on the road here, yeah. Okay.
I was kind of waiting for you to get by. So I was just walking there.
So for these tractors, newer tractors, you basically just put it in whatever gear you want and then you have forward and reverse. So it makes it a lot quicker. And then this is your going down. See if I can get a swath going here. It's really hard because you can't really tell where you really can't tell where this is at all. You're just guessing. I thought Dad was gonna go inside. I was gonna do this for Dad, but he's now out here, so now he probably should be in the tractor because it'd be much warmer for him in the tractor. The tractor's got nice heat in here, so it doesn't matter what the weather is. Ranchers have to be out in it taking care of their animals. That is deep snow. That didn't really work. It's probably definitely below zero wind chill here right now. I don't think them horses will come over here, but I'm gonna close this gate just in case. The last thing you want to do right now is have to chase some horses around. They got out. I think I can get through both these gates just fine now and open and close them. The bucket off, put the forks on. It's amazing what these four-wheel drive tractors can get through. It's just incredible. So now we got to take this tractor bucket off. I kind of felt bad because I was in the nice warm cab while Dad was freezing out here. So I said, well, why don't you drive the tractor? It's almost hot in there. So this handle right here, yeah, that's pretty good. That's really good. Then see, it just drops right out of here, out of these things. So when you come back in, you can just hook it up, and pick the bucket up, and then shove that pin back in there. Now he's going to he's going to put on the forks, which are in here. And he's spray painting them orange so he can see them. So what you do is you just hook it right there again and pick it up. Like that. And you just hook that thing. That makes the pins go in and she's solid. See, now my idea was here that I was going to come over and feed hay, so you didn't have to come outside. But the old man came outside anyway. So he's just going to stand out here in the cold. I'm going to have him in the tractor. Right, Dad?
Yeah, that's right. About 1,600 pounds of hay.
1,600 pounds of hay, which is about what per horse? 30?
Yeah.
You're feeding 30 pounds a horse now?
Like that, yeah.
That's about what it takes. They need about 30 in the wintertime to stay warm. Lots of folks think you just buy a cow, throw it out in the pasture, and boom, you've got beef. But let me break it down for you. When you figure the costs of your fuel, your feed, your fencing materials, your taxes, and everything else that it costs to raise a cow, all of the prices of which have skyrocketed since 2021 especially, you really discover that raising cattle is becoming a rich man's game. You missed my road there, Dad.
I see that.
It's over there.
That'd be a good thing.
It's a tricky thing when you're by yourself, isn't it, Dad?
Uh-huh.
But you got to get out. Yeah. All right, boys. Let me get fed here.
It's good.
It's good?
Yeah.
So this works like it's got balls that they have to push down. I'm sure they don't like to push it down when it's got ice on it either.
They learn they learn how to do it real quick if they're thirsty.
And there's actually 4 of them.
Yeah, I'm only
We're just
watering
keeping
out of one because of the
the wind
freezes up all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't have a great way to take that ice out.
So if you break the ice in there, you could break the ball. So keeping them with water, this goes down 6 feet under the ground is where the water line comes in, and then comes straight up, and then put a windbreak around it to protect it from that cold, because man, it's so much warmer behind the windbreak, isn't it? It's just you just feel it.
Unreal.
And Dad always makes the windbreaks. These are shelter for the horses and for the water. Leaving gaps like this, you would think, oh, that's a mistake, but actually what it does is stops the wind almost entirely. If you make it solid, sometimes it'll get to swirling over the top, and for some reason leaving little gaps breaks it up to where it just feels like there's no wind at all back there. That's an old-timer trick.
Good of them,
Thanks, buddy. Each one of these horses, you can tell this one has a lot heavier coat. It's usually because he's older. So's that one. Some of these younger ones have less of a coat. But it still takes all of them. They all have to have shelter from the wind. They don't necessarily have to have a barn over their head, but you can see that windbreak back there. That's so they can get out of the wind, and we're feeding them right behind the windbreak today. Normally, if the wind wasn't blowing and it wasn't so cold, you wouldn't have to do that. Making sure they're not running over a horse in the back. Yeah, he's way over there. If you just set it in one place with this many animals, especially horses, is this dominant horses just sit there on that hay. Oh yeah, that's an old tank. They'll just sit there on that hay and won't let anybody else come over to it. So it's better if you spread it out a little bit so they can eat it all. Otherwise you just have some fat ones and a bunch of skinny ones.
Supposed to be 18 below tonight.
8 below.
8 below.
But if the wind's blowing, that would be pretty dang cold.
Yeah.
This really beats when I was a kid. Or even when I was a teenager, and we had to load all the little bales by hand, 40 of them a day, and go out here and feed it off in a blizzard. And when you were a kid, it was probably even worse.
We just continued to be stuck all the time. That was the thing.
Right. Because back then, you probably had a 2-wheel drive pickup too.
Yeah, 2-wheel drive half-ton pickups and put 60 bales on the thing. So the whole frame and everything was dragging on the ground.
Right.
And hook onto the tractor and try to pull it. Get stuck with everything.
Yep.
Neighbor has to come over with his tractor and
pull you out.
All 3 together working.
All the joys of feeding in the blizzard, huh?
Yeah.
Plowing through the snow over here. These cows don't have an enormous amount of shelter out here. Got that windbreak back there. And then this feeder up here that he's gonna dump this bale in. One is jammed in here, in there. I got the rest of them except for this one right here. It's amazing that she gets around. With the wind blowing like it is right now, everything that we plowed this morning probably will be blown right back in already.
Yep.
It's basically a losing battle. And
I think I'll have to plow the driveway for Donna to get out.
you might have to, yeah,
Move.
to go back out this afternoon.
So maybe we should do that a minute while we're here.
Well, when is she going back out?
That's a couple hours.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. I think you're gonna have to do it right before she goes, or she takes pickup.
Yeah, but I'm saying maybe we should change the.
Oh, change it back to the bucket. Well, we could do that.
Yeah.
If you were calving this time of year, which some people do, you would have to have more shelter for the cows because you would have to have shelter for the calves, or they just all freeze to death. But we don't calve until it gets warm. Cows and horses are tougher than you think. You gotta have some protection from the wind, but people think you gotta have them in a barn, which just isn't true. They winter out well as long as they have something to get behind. So each one of these corrals has a little windbreak in it, so they can get over there. You can see them horses over behind the windbreak. All right, well, that will freeze your ears off with the sunglasses. You can't get your ear up next to your head. Well, I'm gonna come in and have a cup of coffee now. It's lunchtime, isn't it? I think the weather app is lying again because it says it's -3 wind chill out there, but I don't believe that. It's probably colder. But I came in, Mom's got some, what is it, hamburger gravy? Is that what we call that? It's one of my favorite things is hamburger gravy on toast. If you toast a piece of bread and put some hamburger gravy on there, ooh, that's pretty good.
But it has freaked me out a little bit because I'm like, and then we just had this one yesterday, or the day before yesterday, and we're just flipped that plane over.
Completely upside down.
Yeah, in Canada. I was gonna say, if Paige doesn't leave California, I might say, can you?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't taste test it. Did you want any? He likes pickles.
Especially after coming back in from outside.
You
Huh?
want pickles? Isn't it? Did you want any milk on top of that or just
No,
coffee?
thanks. That's good. Just coffee.
Yes, I did. Puppy, where did I put your little treat? Over here.
Yeah, these are hamburger dill. I had to check that. Sometimes Paige will throw those
Oh, yeah, bread and butter.
like Dave's or bread and butter, and I'm not a fan of those. So
Yeah, if you're looking for burger taste like that, it's kind of, I'll shock you.
this is one of those never-ending jobs, and right, Dad?
Yep.
Most ranchers wear coveralls, and if I was doing it every single day, maybe I would too. I don't know, when I was doing it every single day, I still didn't wear coveralls. The Carhartt coveralls just are so restricting to me. So I'm not even a rancher anymore. I make videos about ranchers and ranching to try to help people become aware of where their food comes from and why it's so important to have small producers rather than just globalized corporations. The more regulations and the more paperwork and the more things that we have to comply with only make it easier for the big corporations to do those things and cut out the little guy who can't afford to implement all the new restrictions. that we're talking about environmental issues with the Endangered Species Act and the fact that we want wolves and not cattle. All of this makes it way more difficult for the rancher to just do his job. Large corporate farmers, they can handle that. Factory farming, they can distribute that cost over a large number of cattle. The packing industry, where there's 4 large packers, basically can control 85% of that market. They run 4,000 to 5,000 head of cattle through a slaughter plant per day. Now, doing that, you can distribute costs of regulation over 5,000 head. Whereas a single person doing that, where they're doing 20 or 30 head a week, they have to distribute that same amount of cost over far fewer animals, which makes it impossible to compete with the big guy. Therefore, you lose the small producer. My family had a farm when I was born, when they lived in Conrad, Montana, when interest rates went sky high and farmers and ranchers were incentivized to buy at the top of the market, and then the market dove. Man, we lost so many farmers and ranchers, and that was when my parents had to sell out. Now, they started back from scratch and have built something back, but what they did is went into the industry of leasing horses, because it's now easier to make money in an industry like tourism than it is actually producing food for the country. So consumers say they want grass-fed beef that comes from a local farm or ranch. But every day they vote with their dollars. And what their dollars say is that they don't want small independent ranches. They want factory farms and cheap imported beef. This falls right in line with the globalists who want to control the food supply. You control the food supply, you control the population. I used to think that a lot of this was conspiracy theory until we got to the point where we are today. Chickens and hogs have become a completely centralized distribution chain where there's almost no producers. Like, hogs went from 600,000 producers down to 6,000. And one of the largest companies that produces pork, Smithfield, is actually owned by China. This is sad, but it's one of those realities where if we don't change something in our country and just enforce the laws that are already on the books, the small independent farm and rancher is soon to be gone. So here's the bottom line. If small independent ranchers lose, you lose, because you lose the right to choose good quality beef. You lose the right to choose whether you want to buy it from the United States or possibly somewhere else that you don't even know about. And you lose the control over your food supply. That's what'll happen if we don't keep fighting to keep these small operations alive. And I, for one, am continuing to fight. Go to lifeinthewest.com to support what I do and continue on with the small independent farmer and rancher.